If you're live with me right now, that means that you know the Jaguars have already lost their game today, and now it's four in a row. And we got to see what's going on, man. I'll tell you my spill on what has happened to the Jaguars and what we do going forward in just a second here on the post game of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, thank y'all for joining me and welcome to another edition, yet again, of a postcast here on Locked On Jaguars. We're at your team every day. We always thank you for making us your first listen. We're free to subscribe to on our YouTube page that is Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you go tap in there. When you get there, hit the like button. Also subscribe and then hit the bell so you receive notifications each and every time we drop an episode. Also, wherever you get your podcast, from a standpoint of just listening to them while you're in your car or at your job, make sure you tap in every single day so you don't miss an episode. I'm going to let you know right now there'll be a special Christmas episode with draft expert Mike Renner. That'll be on tomorrow. And we'll have that posted for you for Christmas. But right now, we got to talk about this bad football team, man, that we have here. And I appreciate everybody who's in the comments. I'll get to some of them in just a second. 30-12 was the score today. Lost at Tampa. Nothing went right. Trevor didn't play well. Had 3 turnovers that he was responsible for, which has led to even more questions about him. And I'll get to those questions in just a second. I said going into the game that what I would focus on is the trenches. The trenches did not trench, if you will, on either side of the ball. And now the injuries have really started to add up. And now they're losing the teams that most people thought that they were way better than the Bucs just a month ago. And it turns out that that's not the case. I always thought that this was, and my witness for that is my buddy Demetrius Harvey. I said that this was always sort of a trap game, and this game was going to be one of those ones that, and this is before they started slumping. So now that they are in a bit of a slump and a free for all, if you will, and they don't sound like they have any answers. Doug says he wants, they need to stop the bleeding. And I'm thinking like, you think? I hate to use this word, but it looks like they quit. It just looks like they don't have anything. They don't have any answers. They don't believe in anything. A buddy of mine talked about them playing for each other instead of playing for the fans. They'll never say they're going to play for the fans. You got to play for yourself first. And I think all fans want is for them to play for themselves and to play better. Not to be selfish, but they have to play for each other as a group and just be better. There's a lot of questions about everything. Trent Baalke. Coaches. See, this is the problem when you get these situations and you can't tell what's wrong. Everybody wants to fire everybody. So for those that I'm gonna go here. For those that think that I've taken up for Press Taylor, I haven't. I don't care if they fire Press Taylor or not, but I'm telling you that if you allow them to just do that one thing, then that one thing turns into enough. And if y'all think that this team is just an offensive coordinator from winning a championship, you're wrong. And that's my point. The point is when GMs pick players that don't turn out, they get fired. When coaches pick coaches that aren't right, all we want to do is just fire that coach. Well, that means that coach that didn't do a good job of picking Mike Caldwell and Press Taylor, you're going to give him a chance to pick 2 more people. I don't know exactly what the biggest problem is for me because Mike Caldwell was there last year. Press Taylor was there last year. Doug Peterson was there last year. And I think functionally everything that they're doing this year is what they did last year. I think the only difference is that they told you that Press was going to be the guy calling plays, where he called them last year and he was already doing it. I think the only difference is they told fans, and that to me has kind of weaponized fans to think that that's all they're going to keep talking about is press. Well, no, I think you're letting Doug off the hook. I think you're letting Trent Baalke off the hook. And I'm not telling you that I believe Press is a great offensive coordinator because I don't know that either. But I'm telling you, I don't think he's the problem. When I look at this team, I do not think play calling is the problem. If I want to fire a guy like that, I'll fire him for having a bad game plan because they aren't calling anything that they didn't see on tape. They are not sitting there and under fire and under pressure and having to call plays They have a play sheet. Everything doesn't make the play sheet. You know what makes the play sheet? The things that they've worked on all week. So if I'm gonna fire a guy, I'm gonna fire him for that reason. And I have to ask how much Doug Peterson has to do with that. I think he has a whole bunch more to do with it than y'all are comfortable. See, nobody really wants. There's a few people out there saying let's fire Doug, but nobody really wants to say it. If you fire Press, you might as well fire Doug too, because I'm telling you, they ain't much different than they're doing from what they've always done. All right. Mike Caldwell, the problem I have with this defense is that they make everybody look like a Hall of Famer. All of them. They make every quarterback that they play look like a Hall of Famer. And to me, that's a problem. God bless Baker Mayfield, but he ain't never been that good like that. And the kid in Cincinnati, he had a terrible game yesterday. Flacco's still throwing it around, but still, man, at some point, the Jaguars have to not let people come in here and get off on them. We'll get to some of these comments here in a second. But, man, this is just – it has just gotten out of control, man. I told you the worst thing you can do to a football team is have a bad offensive line, because now y'all see exactly what I'm talking about, because now we're pointing to everything. The same people that are talking about Balky, the same people that are talking about Press, the same people that are talking about Trevor. You're talking about everything. So this is what I'm trying to prevent people from just nitpicking at the one thing that they think. If you're going to pick something to get rid of, make it something that's going to change a whole bunch of stuff, not just the one little outlier thing on this one little branch and the whole tree is still messed up. And that's kind of where I'm going with it, man. I'm just sick and tired of putting a Band-Aid on stuff that needs to absolutely be fixed. All right, we'll go over all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. And what we're going to do is try to find something to be positive about, but I'm going to tell you, ain't nothing to be positive about. And I'll get to that in just a second. First, I have to let you know about FanDuel, man. If you're not playing FanDuel, I don't know what it is that you're doing, because you should be playing FanDuel, because FanDuel is the absolute truth. It's a little chilly outside too, but you want to stay hot and you want to get some hot money in your pocket, you need to do it at FanDuel, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. It's $150. That's right, with any winning $5 bet. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. And we got to let you know about Gametime, man, especially if you're like me. If you're one of those people that kind of procrastinate a little bit when it comes to ticket buying, and you need somebody to help you, and your lack of planning becomes their emergency, well, guess what? Gametime specializes in that stuff. And they won't make you feel bad at all about coming to them, because this is what they do. They can get you tickets to any event you want, sporting event, theater, whatever it is, play, concert, whatever it is, FanDuel will have it. You can see your ticket too before you actually buy it. They'll handle all of the things that you didn't handle and make sure that you are able to get to your event and have great seats. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's right. Say it again. Download the app. You can create an account. It's a Gametime app, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, man, let's run it down here on the postcast. Another losing day, 30-12, and I don't even think the game really wasn't that close. It really was not that close. A whole bunch of people on here. Somebody said they missed Gardner Minshew. He was the perfect backup quarterback. Okay. Appreciate you, Ray Bethel, for putting that in. Ant Brown says Doug commitment to his coaches causes things to go bad in Philly. I get it. The commitment to the coaches, if he's going to uncommit to a coach, yeah, you do it after this season. I mean, up to this point, they did what they did last year. They made the run. I keep saying the biggest thing that they did is tell y'all that they were just going to, they put a different title on what they were already doing from a year ago. And now that has taken on sort of a life of its own. And hopefully they don't use that as an excuse just to get rid of one guy. And then they still have the other things here. That's the biggest problem. It'll make y'all happy, you know. Jay says, I honestly don't think it's poor quarterback play. It's terrific offensive line play. They look the same, if not worse, with CJ and CJ. There's a thing that could be both, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. I don't think Trevor's been terrible. That's not the point. Rocket says, keep blaming Trevor for having a concussion, ankle, and shoulder injury, trying to throw behind a turnstile line to receivers who can't get a single space of separation. All right, okay, if that's what you think I'm doing, then that's okay. See, there's a problem here, and I want to stop right there. I want y'all to thank whoever that was, Rocket, and even the last person. I'm going to stop right there. Folks act like people can't be criticized for doing their job, and that's the part that, you know, the thing about that kills me is I sit here and 90% of the comments I hear people criticizing me for doing mine. And they want to say that Trevor can't be criticized for doing the job. So I'm not an elementary school student here when it comes to this, right? I'm not going to sit here and watch something and tell you it's good when it's not. I'm also not going to sit here and act like I can't deduct different things from what I see. Is the offensive line bad? Yeah, I've been telling you that for 2 years. I've been telling you that really all year this year, that they're bad. Do I think they have a number one receiver? No. And I don't care how many balls Evan Ingram catches. He's not a seam wide receiver, which means everything is always outside of the middle of the field. And that's a problem. And it's easy. It makes the Jaguars easy to defend. I can say those things, and I don't like their game plan, and they don't run the ball well enough, and still tell you that when I see him do things, I don't see him do things that makes me want to give him $150 million in guaranteed money and say we're good at quarterback. No, I think your commitment to him is still, Trevor hasn't done anything to make you jump off and go want to grab another guy. But he also hasn't done anything that makes you want to say, we're going to give you a 10-year, $300 million contract with $150 million due at signing and another $50 million guarantee. He hasn't made us decide that. So they have 2 years to do that. He's played his third year. They can play him next year and then get him in a fifth-year option, or they can wait until next year and see how things go next year. But I am telling you, if you honestly as a fan can tell me that you have seen enough from Trevor Lawrence at this point to say we're good at that position, I can't even argue with you anymore. Until this point, I can still say I haven't seen enough to say that we're not. And there's no reason to have to really make that determination now. And I think you're crazy if you think you need to go get another dude already. But yeah, I'm on pause on giving him all of that money right now. And I don't know what it is that, even if I just point to the turnovers themselves, and I know that I've been the biggest proponent of making sure you do enough. I told Richard Sherman today on Twitter, I don't think they've done good enough putting enough stuff around him. But I also agree that, and I'm not going to sit here and argue with a future Hall of Famer that from his perspective, he hasn't seen it. If you haven't seen it, that doesn't mean it's time to get rid of him. But I was the one banging on the table for them to extend Trevor Lawrence. Extend him. I even say start talking about it now, even though they probably couldn't. They couldn't have done that. And I was told they ain't going to do that. But in the back of their mind, they're probably sitting here formulating a way, okay, let's start getting these numbers together. Well, now, I don't know. I don't want to see more. I want to see if the main thing is, even if we just bring it back to this, I want to make sure that what hasn't happened is that he hasn't been ruined. Because sometimes guys can be good and then all of a sudden they have so many things go bad and all of this stuff. And now the dude's wondering and what's going on. You're talking about guys getting concussions and always constantly being hurt. Eventually you start seeing those ghosts. And I'm hoping that hasn't happened yet, but I want to see another year. I want them to make, this is why I keep saying I want them to make changes at the very top and not just another Band-Aid. Don't just give him a different OC. You got to give him a different talent set. You got to give him a whole bunch of different stuff, man. And they got to not stand pat in the offseason anymore. Y'all keep begging for Press Taylor to get fired all you want to. I'm telling you, if that happens, all it is going to be just an excuse to say, okay, we got rid of the problem. And the problem is probably the people who are above him. And that's where I keep going with the fan base, but nobody wants to touch on that. If folks like you to stay in this little box. They want you to blame exactly who they think the problem is, just so we can all sound alike while we're arguing. I'm not that. I'm not a jukebox. Especially when I was the one telling you the whole time. I did a poll. Hey, man, y'all want them to back in? Because that's what it appears they're going to do now, since nobody else can win games in the AFC South, that everybody's going to try to back in. That, they're going to back in and get hammered. And then the people that are in charge can say, hey, we went to the playoffs 2 years in a row. And y'all know that it's more to it than that. You got to know it's more to it than that. Man, but it's Christmas Eve. I wanted to come on here and try to be positive, but there's absolutely nothing to be positive about. This is worse than we imagined. Like I put on that, if you're looking at YouTube, in my title box, it's worse than you imagine. They're terrible. Yeah, I do think they need to change defensive coordinators. I think they need to change their whole defensive mindset. I do believe that they have a whole bunch of holes on that defensive side of the ball. They do. And it looks like to me, and I hate to put this on athletes, but it looked like they quit on something. I don't know if they quit on each other, but it seems like they're out there knowing that a whole bunch of stuff they're trying to do ain't going to work. They're out there doing a whole bunch of stuff that they know ain't going to work. I want y'all to try to have a Merry Christmas, man. Enjoy the time with your family. Enjoy the time with your loved ones. But I'm telling you right now, I'll take a few more of these comments real quick. I'm telling you that these are some big issues that this team has. And I think that they really have to take a strong look. And I think Doug has to look at himself too. He really does. Doug has to look at himself. He does, man, because you're the one making all the decisions. And you're sitting there watching guys. You see that game plan. And I know if you tell me the reason why they run, I was just sitting there wondering why they keep running, doing so much behind the line of scrimmage, especially when they're ahead of the sticks. And maybe they're trying to keep the pass rush down. Those guys are beating down on everything in the backfield, and maybe they're trying to slow them down a little bit. But I think you have to start faking some of that in-around stuff before you actually start running it, because it's not working. And I'm talking about Ridley getting tackled 12 yards behind the line of scrimmage on 1st and 10. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Nothing does. But usually when things don't make sense, it doesn't make sense because they're trying to mask things shortcomings that they have, but they're not going to come out and tell you that they're short in those areas. Just not going to happen. What is going to happen, man? We're going to have a happy holiday. Remember, check out Locked On tomorrow. I will upload a special Christmas Day show with Mike Renner, who's one of the Locked On. I believe Ross Jackson is on there with him too. So we'll make sure we put that out for you. And then we'll be back Tuesday, man, with a vengeance. We're going to come back Tuesday and we're going to start looking at some of these hard issues. They might not win another game. They could still make the playoffs even if they don't win a game. But that's what I mean by backing in. I think these next 2 games are going to be tough because now Trevor has another injury. They say he hurt his shoulder. All right, man. You guys do what I always tell you to do. Make sure you take care of each other. Please enjoy the time with your family tomorrow on this holiday. Don't take anything for granted. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.